Think of social media as a vibrant food market. You've got people walking through, passing stall after stall, and then you've got these raw ingredients. You have to figure out how to take these raw ingredients and turn it into something that's gonna stop and get the attention and the interest and the business of all the people passing through the market. On social media, it's the same way. People are scrolling past account after an account. You've got to take your knowledge, your creativity, your information, your business, your services, chop it up and package it in a way that's going to grab attention and stop the scroll. Today, I'm going to talk to you about being that great content chef and what are the ingredients that you need to succeed on social media. Now, before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the Story YouTube channel. We're dropping new videos and tips and tricks here all the time. First, you got to understand the currency of attention. It's what everyone's trading online when we post content. Here's the concept. People are only going to pay with their attention if you post meaningful, worthwhile, engaging content. Here's a real world example. We worked with a client named Ava Lopez. She recently ran for office in Salt Lake City, Utah, and she was running for city council. She was running against an incumbent, so someone was already elected to office, and she was trying to figure out, how do I get people to care about my message, care about the things I want to change in the city, especially when I haven't run for office before. Here's what Ava did. Ava created a bunch of content about the issues that voters in her district cared about. She created this content, shared it online, and promoted it to the people who were going to be voting in the election. And what this did is it got her a win. She won her election. She beat the incumbent by 6 points. And she said that this strategy was her secret weapon. This strategy of authentic, valuable content that people actually cared about, promoted to the people who matter to her. If she just made content that made her look cool, look flashy, look like a real sophisticated person, she wouldn't have won that election. She understood that in order for people to pay attention to her as a candidate, she had to give them interesting content about the issues that they cared about, content worth paying attention to. You got to recognize that social media is not this ego-driven space if you're doing it right. Sometimes if you're debating about creating content on social media, you get caught in this trap of, oh, are people gonna think I'm full of myself or I'm an egomaniac? You gotta just take a step back and recognize it's not an ego contest. It's about providing actual value to people. If you ever feel like you're flexing too much, ground yourself and be like, am I doing this for myself or am I doing this for people it's going to help? People get caught in the ego trap when they're trying to focus too much on making themselves look successful rather than helping other people achieve success. And whatever that looks like in your business or what you're doing, you got to remember that you're creating this content for an audience. Create something worth their attention. Respect your audience's time and create content that's meaningful and impactful and makes a difference, that makes them walk away from their phone or computer afterwards and be like, I'm so glad that I watched that. We actually worked with Cardone Ventures. If you've heard of Grant Cardone, he's all about flexing. Big jets, big money, flaunt the cash. And at a certain point, we started seeing on their accounts that wasn't working. People stopped caring. They wanted real information. They wanted to see content and walk away feeling like they learned something. And so we helped them change strategy. We helped them create more content that was educational, inspirational, and all of a sudden, they started to see growth return to their accounts. That's what we're talking about, is you can't just focus on posturing and looking flashy. You got to bring substance to the conversation. I had a call a couple months ago with Facebook's team and was asking them, look, if I want the algorithm to elevate my content and recommend my content to more people, what is the stuff that I should be focusing on and worrying about? There was two things they said was essential. The first was consistency. The platforms are trained based on how consistent you post content. And the second was the quality of your content. High quality, consistent content will build your personal brand, build engagement, and help you reach new audiences. If you're inconsistent, people start to tune out. It's like a TV show. If you really like the first episode, but then it takes 6 years to have episode 2, you're gonna forgot about it by then. You've got to give people a steady stream of content so they can be engaged, watch consistently, get to know you, get to like you, get to trust you, and then give them that high quality information that keeps them coming back for more. I know a lot of creators that find one platform and they find a lot of success on it. Maybe they get big on Twitter, or they've been, posting Instagram modeling for the last couple of years. And the issue there is that those creators are focused on building an audience that they are borrowing attention from the platforms. And so if you have one platform that you're doing really well, what ends up happening is if that platform changes the algorithm, changes the recommendation structure, all of a sudden you're out ice cold and unable to reach your audience. And so it's important that you are multi-channel multi-channel with your social media approach. If we're talking about having great content and being consistent, the thing you've got to do for a multi-channel social media approach is start with the content that gives you the most flexibility for posting and repurposing to each platform's individual needs. That multi-channel approach means starting with video. You've got to make sure that the content that you're creating is this long-form, rich media content. So that way, if it needs to be on TikTok, you've got the video. If it needs to go on a podcast, you've got the audio. If it needs to go on a blog, you've got the transcript. If you need to have a post for Instagram and you want it to be a photo, you can make the quote graphic or you can take a screenshot. So starting with video gives you the most flexibility to have a multi-platform approach. So if you're going multi-platform, which reduces risk and ultimately reduces cost, you've got to start with video. And these platforms feed into each other, right? These platforms are looking for signals on other platforms to know who to elevate and what kind of content to elevate. You know, Dennis Yu, a mentor of mine, super grateful for his coaching, often talks about the importance of a Google knowledge panel, something that when someone searches your name on Google, you have this rich media experience that builds authority and shows people that you're someone of authority, right? Well, you build that knowledge panel by having great content across the internet on multiple websites. You've got to be thinking multi-channel, you got to be thinking video so that you can get that kind of recognition that only comes from having this kind of steady stream of high quality content across the internet. And you know, Millie Adrian, she's a great example of this. She's a YouTube social media coach that we've worked with for a while now. You know, she was 100% Instagram. Her focus was 100% on Instagram. And as Instagram's algorithms changed, she started to feel this burnout. She felt like it was requiring a new type of content creation from her that she hadn't done in the past. And so she started doing more video and decided, look, if I'm doing video, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna do TikTok and I'll keep going on Instagram, but I don't have to be 100% reliant on doing everything on Instagram all the time anymore. And so yeah, it helped her give more diversity across her audiences. She has audiences in more places. She's got content that can be easily repurposed to multiple places, and it's simplified her content creation process. So multi-channel doesn't mean 10 times more work. It means more intentional video creation. And the great part is now Millie's not just a great giant influence on Instagram, she's a huge influence here on YouTube as well. And so you get this powerful network effect from the content you create. You know, we talk about this being a content chef, right? And when you're creating food, you can just load it with sugar or caffeine or something to pull people in repeatedly rather than giving them valuable nutrients. And for a short time, that might work. But if you're trying to build a real relationship with your customers to get repeat customers and get people that are celebrating you rather than ultimately detracting you, you've got to be conscientious about not focusing on virality. Sometimes, you know, we like this idea of like getting millions of views. Like it sounds so awesome to get millions of views, but a million views from the wrong people are worthless. I always ask people, do you remember who started the cinnamon challenge? You know, putting that spoon of cinnamon in your mouth and coughing it up. Like we all watched thousands of those challenge videos. No one remembers who started that. No one cares who started that. No one remembers the name of anyone that did it, but they went viral. And so the question is, do you want to go viral or do you want to build relationships? The way you build relationships is creating valuable content. You might grow slower, but ultimately you grow the right way with the right people. And if you do that consistently, you'll have times where you'll have a random piece of content just pop off. You take more shots and you have more chances, but it's better to focus on creating great content and letting that go viral because it's great content versus riding a trend that exposes you to people that are not actually in your audience. When we're talking about this crowded marketplace, you got to recognize that authenticity is essential. And authenticity has become this tired word, so let me break down what I mean here. When you put a camera in front of you and you start talking to the camera, it feels kind of unnatural. It feels like you're talking to a robot or something, like there's not another person on the other end. And you got to recognize that there actually is another person on the end. Lots of people on the other end. You've probably got hundreds of people that are going to watch your first video. And some of them you'll know and some of them you don't. And you got to try to keep it like a conversation. Don't get so caught up in the performance of it that you lose the humanity of it. And I think that's what authenticity, when we're talking about content, is about. It's about making sure that if someone meets you off camera, that you don't just be someone fundamentally different than who you presented. I think the other reason authenticity comes up a lot in content creation is video has this way of capturing more things about you in a way that you can't fake, right? AI is not quite there yet. So because it's this truth-telling medium that shows more of you than any other format, you've got to get comfortable with the idea that you're going to have to be a little bit more vulnerable. People are going to see more of you, and you can react to that by dressing differently or talking differently, like
lowering your voice and talking more slowly.
Or you can just be you. And if you make the choice early to not put fakeness to it, just actually come as you are, you'll find your content creation is less stressful and that people will react to it in a more positive way. If you fake it too much, right? If you fake it till you make it, you're gonna find yourself constantly battling this, ooh, like, how's that gonna come across? What are people gonna think? And that is poison to social media content creation, to content creation in general. You've gotta just come from where you actually think. Otherwise, you're gonna stress yourself out with anxiety. Just come as you are and say what you think. No one can disagree with your opinion or your experiences. Don't be afraid of the trolls, just share what you think. And then look, you got to give attention to get attention. Attention's the currency of the internet, and if you just expect people to invest attention in you without investing attention in others, you're going to have a hard time growing. Social media growth, a social media network, is a lot like networking in person. You've got to start conversations. You have to engage with other people. You have to like their comment, like their videos, watch their content. For some people, that's very natural. And for other people, it might put them in a place that they haven't really been before. Maybe it's something you're uncomfortable with or you have a hard time justifying the time for. And networking, whether it's online or in person, is essential. And overthinking that social media is different, you run the risk of not recognizing the human connections that you build. You don't have to have a direct interaction with every single one of your followers for your followers to feel like you really care about your audience. So you've got to make sure you spend the time to really engage in a meaningful way. And it doesn't have to be with everybody, but you've got to make sure that you're engaged. And that's going to help you keep tabs on what does your audience need, what do they care about, and network. You're going to make connections with actual people that actually can help bring you opportunities and success, but only if you give attention, right? You've got to give that attention, and you're going to find that attention comes back to you, and it comes back to you at a much higher rate than what you give it. Like a parting thoughts here for the content chefs. You got to make sure you got high quality ingredients. You got to make sure that you're authentically whipping up what you're whipping up in your social media kitchen. And I think ultimately the success of your growth on social media is about how well you serve your audience. The more you're focusing on yourself and making yourself look good, or your ego, or you're selling your products, the smaller of a reach you're going to get, because ultimately not everyone in the world is looking to buy your thing right now. And if you only focus on those people, you're going to have a pretty small audience at any given time relative to the amount of people who might pay attention to you if you went to serve a wider group of people. Educate, inspire, entertain, help them grow, help them accomplish their goals. That's a wider group of people. And you'll find that as that group widens, the group of people that might want to work with you or collaborate with you also widens. And so focus on serving first, and you'll find that there's more opportunities for you to accomplish your goals as well. But you have to come in with a very clean, honest assessment of what you're trying to accomplish. And if you come in trying to add value, trying to help, you'll see that it's not disingenuous to be like, I want to help people and I also want to grow my business, right? You can be transparent about that. But if those are just words and that it's not met with actual intention to help, you'll find that people sniff that out quickly and they just disengage. So speaking of help, if you need help coming up with a social media strategy, if you need help preparing what you're going to be doing over the next several months on social media, we've got a bunch of resources in the description here. We've got a hook guide with some great social media hooks you can use, a playbook that you can use, and we'll even edit a video for you for free if you need some help getting some content you've got looking polished. And so you can just reach out to us and we're happy to help with that. There are so many great creators like Dennis Yu, like Millie Adrian that you should go follow, who can educate you and help you grow on social media. And ultimately, remember that no one can do it like you, and have the confidence to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid that it's going to sound dumb. Some people think it sounds dumb, and that's okay. The people that will care will be grateful you made the content. And that's it for us today. Like I said, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe, follow us here on Story, and be sure to follow us for more.